Not really. Well, I always say age is just an illusion. Now, that's not to say that a 20-year-old or 25-year-old is probably going to get there quicker than someone who's 60 or 70. Age and genetics will play a role in progress to a certain extent. But that's not to say that, okay, if you're 60, you can't get a six-pack, right? You can. And I think coming back to the mind, it's like anyone who's watching this now, people are always like, what's the secret? What's the secret? How do I get there? What do I really have to do to get where I want to be? And a transformation, a successful transformation doesn't come from a workout plan, doesn't come from a diet plan, doesn't come from A, B, and C. It comes from your mindset. It solely comes from your mindset. So the workout stuff, the nutrition is all part and parcel. You need that stuff, right? You know, everyone knows that you need correct nutrition, you need to train, you need to rest, recover. But you're not getting that stuff until you get this right.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get your mindset right, that's where your transformation comes from. And it's the same thing I tell my clients, you know, everyone who comes on board, I'm going to give them the plan, but you need to reposition your mindset in a way where you believe in yourself, first and foremost, because one of my favorite sayings is, I think it's from Henry Ford, if you believe you can't or believe you can, you're right. So whichever way you look at it, if you believe you can do something, you're going to do it. If you believe you can't, you can't.
Now, my guest today is UK's fastest rising online fat coach. You know, it's a fat loss coach, and he's for all those who are looking for coaches to lose fat. And he's specifically targeted to people like me, busy professionals, no time to look after their health, pay the price for it. I've got a scar to tell the story, and he permanently tortures fat. Now, that's why I singled him out from LinkedIn. And for 20 to 50 pounds of stubborn fat, he just burns it away with the idea of keeping muscle, building muscle, creating an abundance of energy to produce and increase productivity. And he does all this within 6 months. So you're in for the real deal. And he's going to help you and me get into the best shape ever. Now, both physically and mentally, he has a proven elite coaching program, the dad bod to the Greek god. And he's also the CEO and founder of Believe in Lean. So I wanted to welcome with me the Greek god himself, Mr. Thomas Whitehead. Welcome, Thomas.
Hey, thanks for having me, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, man. You know, it's a delight to have you on HEARTtalk. You know, I was sort of surfing through LinkedIn, and I just typed there fitness coach, and you popped up. And your credentials can fill a whole suitcase. So I just want to thank you, congratulate you for what you're doing, because it's very personal to me, Thomas. And I've struggled with, you know, this belly fat for years to come. I also know that as I look through your resumes and all that, you graduated from the University of West of England with a Bachelor of Science. So take us there. What happened when you finished? You would have hit the corporate world.
Yes, it's an interesting one. So during that time at university, part of my degree was to do a placement year, essentially where I go and work for a corporate world. General Electric was the oil and gas was the company that I worked for.
Right.
So I did a year in there, and I soon realized that probably wasn't the path that I wanted to go down, just because I knew that it didn't really align with my values. I always kind of thought that I wanted to do and create something for myself. So it kind of gave me a taste of what life would be like in the corporate world. It wasn't that I was against it. I just kind of figured that there was something better out there for me, maybe something more impactful as such, right? What happened was, finished university, graduated, and me and my girlfriend wanted to do some traveling because we were big travelers. I've been around the world previously, did a lot of Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, all that kind of stuff. This time we wanted to go away, explore some of the world. I just finished, had some like freedom as such, you could say. And we wanted to do it in a way where we could, not come back with no money, because typically when you go away, you do all these amazing things and you come back, your skin, right? You've got no money. So we figured, what can we do where we can have experience, we can have fun, and we can also come back with something to kind of build upon that. And that's where we actually went to China. So we did 18 months in China and we were teaching English.
Right.
And so, it was completely away from like the UK. It was almost kind of like a fresh slate, as you like, kind of thing. Like, we got there, came straight off the plane, straight into the job. And it was during that time where I started to actually take my fitness and health much more seriously. I'd always been into it since a young age, but I'd never really taken it seriously enough in terms of like going all in. It was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. And I think that's a big problem that a lot of people have in themselves. It's like, I think you only really ever see progress in what you want to do in life when you're fully invested into it, right? When you're all in and you've kind of got that singularity of focus. So during this time, obviously being in China, away from, the whole university life of going out, partying and drinking, and the UK is a big culture like that. For anyone who's listening, and who's experienced the UK, it's a very big, heavy drinking culture, right? It's just
It's
part of what we
pubs.
do. Yeah, I know you spent some time in Bristol and the UK. I'm sure you probably know and saw that
Right.
firsthand, right?
Yeah.
So it was nice to kind of escape that, go to China, fresh slate, and kind of think like, where do we want the direction of our lives to head towards, right? And it was that time that I really kind of invested into my health and fitness, and for the first time in my life got in incredible shape. Like really, really good shape, 6-pack, everything. And
So you were not kind of like overweight, or I mean there was not part of you that you looked at every day and thought that I got to get out of this shape, and get to something different. It was not that kind of a score where you were on the overweight scale, or there was, no.
I mean, I was borderline. I wasn't like, you wouldn't look at me and think that guy is like ridiculously overweight, but I wasn't in shape.
Right.
I wasn't in shape. Like I was 90 kilos. So what's that? 200 pounds. I wasn't, you wouldn't look at that. You wouldn't look at me and think, wow, that guy needs to necessarily make a change, but I wasn't in shape. I was kind of
Okay.
like, I guess the turning point where it would kind of go to dad bod, and I was just at that like brink, right? So then I got in shape, like really good shape, like the whole 6-pack, the muscles, everything. And I mean, it's a great feeling. It is an amazing feeling. It really is. Like people talk about, a lot of people come to me and say, I'm just not confident, or I don't like the way I look. When you're in that kind of shape, everything feels good. Everything, you're confident, you've got more energy, you're more productive. Just everything in your life starts to improve.
So when you
And
got to that, yeah, I'm sorry, I got to pause you there because the moment you say 6 packs and get into shape, for many of us, including myself, that's a dream in another planet, because I do a liposuction, and when they come and tell me I want to have this pack thing, I say, look, the only pack that I know is a backpack, but for you to work out to such an extent that you could see those 6 packs at that time in China. I mean, China, we live on Chinese food here, Thomas, and it's all starchy, it's all noodles and all sorts of stuff. So how did you get to that 6 pack in that kind of an environment where everything is noodles and that kind of starchy stuff?
yeah, so the irony is, and this is something, it's funny because I guess you learn a lot as you make mistakes, you learn a lot. So the first thing I did, I adopted what's known as the ketogenic diet. Okay.
Okay.
Now, in China, obviously, like you said, you've got a lot of those street foods, everything's completely different to the UK. It's hard to necessarily track what you're doing. So I adopted the ketogenic diet. Now, it gave you some quick results. It gives you some fast results, right? But I guess the thing that I learned from that, and this is why I don't necessarily promote the ketogenic diet nowadays, is because it's unsustainable.
Right.
Okay, like it's not something that you do for a set amount of time, and I'll speak about why this is a problem in a little bit longer. But and this is the big problem with people looking for these quick fix crash diet things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the benefit I had was the fact that I'd made the decision to go all in. So it was like a stepping stone for me to get where I wanted to be. And I had the mindset, I had the resilience to do 12, 14 weeks with it. And I think it was getting in that kind of shape that made me decide that, like, this is what I want to help people feel this. I want to
Sure.
help people achieve this, because I was taking photos every day. I was saying to my girlfriend, like, look, like,
Yeah,
taking my
yeah.
t-shirt off, like, it sounds kind of vain, but I think it's more of like a self-achievement thing. When you get to that point, it's like,
Sure.
why, if you can achieve that, why can't you not achieve anything else you want in your life? So I think that was like the turning point for me, where it's like, I want other men to experience this, because there's so many out there that feel the complete opposite. They don't want to take their t-shirt off. They're embarrassed about the way they look. They feel depressed. And the complete, you do a complete 180, and you feel amazing. You feel on top of the world. You're the best version of
Yeah,
yourself. Everything in your life changes. And
I
it was
can
like, I
imagine.
almost wanted to give back to other people to experience this kind of thing, right? And I think getting to that point to begin with was really and truthfully me just deciding to go all in, which I think a lot of people don't. It's like, you don't have to let it consume your lifestyle, but you do need to change your lifestyle. It needs to become less of a means to an end, whereas, like, I'm going to do this for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. More of like, what can I do that's going to be something that I can do for the rest of my life?
Hmm.
you know
So it's
how can I
more of
change my
sustaining it.
lifestyle? Yeah, 100%. And that's why now, in hindsight, because, like I say, the keto diet, I got some quick results, but there were times where I was in bed, literally laying in bed, counting down the days until I could eat a carbohydrate, until I
Right.
could eat this, until I could eat that, until I could eat this, right? And I think if I didn't have the burning desire to do it so badly, I wouldn't have been able to sustain it. So although I got some good results, you could say, I also learned a lot in terms of that's not necessarily the best way to go about it. Because if it's unsustainable, it's unattainable from
Right.
90% of the people, right?
You did
It
right.
was just that I had the time, I had the desire to do it. But I think a lot of people are in different parts of their life. So not everyone can give up carbohydrates for 12 weeks. And quite frankly, you don't need to do that. It's not that enjoyable. So it's kind of ironic that although it worked for me for a short period of time, I also learned much better ways from that, and in my studies and being a coach, that are much more beneficial, and I think much more easier to get results, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is point taken because, I mean, I want to sign up under your wings. And I've been struggling with belly fat, stubborn. And I want to take you to this place. It's called the mind.
Mm.
And it seems to be the center of the whole universe because everything flows from your mind, Thomas. I mean, you made a decision to get out from where you were to get to that, and you tasted it and it was good. And you decide to share that. So, for somebody, I mean, is there an age that fits that six pack kind of look that you want to make them feel real mojo about yourself? Is there an age? I mean, is your approach different to different age groups?
Not really.
Okay.
I think it works. I think, well, I always say age is just an illusion.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that a 20-year-old or 25-year-old is probably going to get there quicker than someone who's 60 or 70. Age and genetics will play a role in progress to a certain extent. But that's not to say that, okay, that if you're 60, you can't get a six pack, right? You can. And I think coming back to the mind, it's like, anyone who's watching this now, people are always like, what's the secret? What's the secret? How do I get there? What do I really have to do to get where I want to be? And a transformation, a successful transformation, doesn't come from a workout plan, doesn't come from a diet plan, doesn't come from A, B, and C. It comes from your mindset. It solely comes from your mindset. So the workout stuff, the nutrition is all part and parcel. You need that stuff, right? You know, everyone knows that you need correct nutrition, you need to train, you need to rest, recover, but you're not getting that stuff until you get this right.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get your mindset right, that's where your transformation comes from. And it's the same thing I tell my clients, you know, everyone who comes on board, I'm going to give them the plan, but you need to reposition your mindset in a way where you believe in yourself first and foremost, because one of my favorite sayings is, I think it's from Henry Ford, if you believe you can't or believe you can, you're right.
Right.
So whichever way you look at it, if you believe you can do something, you're going to do it. If you believe you can't, you can't. So you might as well set yourself up in a way where you believe you can do it, right? So that's the first thing you need. Then you need a desire, a burning desire. So I know, for example, if you want to lose 12 kilograms, my question would be like, why? Why do you want to lose 12 kilos? Why do you want a six pack? Why do you want a flat stomach? Why do you want a bigger biceps? Right? Because no one wants, think of it this way, no one buys a drill to buy it to put a hole in the wall, right? Everyone buys a drill to hang the photo of their family on the wall. It's the same thing. Why do you want to get in shape? What does it really mean to you? You know, if it's you want to go onto the beach and talk to more girls, your desire might not be as high as someone who has kids and wants to be the best role model they can be for their son, for their daughter, right? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing you want to think about is, what's your desire? Why do you want to do it? Okay. And then once you believe in yourself and you've got that burning desire, you need to commit. You need to actually commit to change. Now, this goes back to the whole thing. People think they want to change, and thinking you want to change is different to actually wanting to change. Everyone can say, I'm going to hit a workout tomorrow. Everyone can say, I'm going to get up at 7 o'clock and hit a run. Everyone can say, I'm going to start my diet on Monday. Not many people can actually do. Not many people actually do that workout. Not many people actually go for that run in the morning. Not many people actually even start their diet. So you have to commit to change, because if you don't commit, then you're not going to get there. Simple as that. And I think for me, I guess the turning point in China was where I was like, because I'd failed for many years, man. Like you said, I just got into fitness at about 14, 15 years old, and I'd always been stop, start, like most people, right?
Yes.
Do something, fall off the wagon, weekend comes around, don't get back into the gym till Tuesday, miss a day in the week, and then it repeats that cycle. And I think the first time in my life I actually committed to change, like from a deep level, I said, this is it. This is the time I'm going to do it.
Right.
You know, and once I had those three things, and once you have those three things, then you're guaranteed a successful transformation. But it starts from here. This is where your transformation comes from. Nowhere else.
I mean, I can hear you, I can feel you, I can touch you when you say that. But you know, how important in your whole training schedule and workout plan is accountability. I mean, like, you know, if I'm not accountable to someone, it's so easy to play a fake game and be an imposter. You know what I'm trying to say? Exactly what you said just now. One day you do it, tomorrow you do it, nobody's watching. So how do you drive that nail into the wall and say, listen, you got to commit to me, but you got to be accountable to me at the same time? How do you get that, over the seas?
For sure. So the first thing I'll do, like, I don't just work with anyone. I think that's an important thing. Like, and I'll be like, honestly, when I say this, Charles, like, I'm not looking for clients. I'm looking for my next success story.
Right.
Because someone comes on board and doesn't work hard and doesn't want it, what's the point? Like, I wasted your time and you've wasted my time, right? Same thing. If I don't think someone's going to be coachable, right? And I've had this in the past where people have paid me a lot of money, come on the program, I've given them what they need to do, and oh, but I don't do it like this. Oh, I didn't do it last time. This doesn't work for me. And it's like, well, that's the point. That's the point, right? You need to be coachable. You need to be open for change. So the first thing I'll do is I'll essentially have what I call like a strategy call, where we'll sit down and we'll go through where you currently are, where you want to be, and what roadblocks are getting in the way. And then also, why do you want to do this? And then we'll essentially figure out a plan and come to terms that if we think there's a good fit. And if there is, then we'll proceed. If there's not, then I have no problem saying, look, you're not the right person. You know, maybe there's someone else that's better suited for you. Maybe you just need to go back to the drawing board and figure out why you want to do this to begin with, right? Maybe you're not as ready as you think you are. Okay.
Right.
But I think it all comes down to that. So I'll get kind of the people on the program that I think are going to contribute to the community, be a good asset to the program, and be an advocate, you know, not just for the program itself, but for health and fitness. Because the impact that getting in, because this is the thing, right? You probably see the before and afters, which is great. So-and-so lost 30 pounds in this time. So-and-so lost 40 pounds in this time. The before and afters show you a before and an after. They don't show you the impact.
Yes.
You know, when I have someone sending me photos of them throwing their kid around the pool and saying, dude, I haven't been able to do this in 10 years. I haven't even had the confidence to go and take, you know, little Charlie to the pool and throw him around. And now I have like an abundance of energy and I can see the smile on his face. That's the impact. That's the impact, because your kid's going to grow up and look back at all those amazing memories of daddy throwing him around the pool, taking him to the park, playing with him. Well, all the other dads couldn't. And I think that's the big impact that people don't see. You don't see that in the before and after. So I remind people of that as well. And I think, you know, like you said, with accountability, you've got all these people listening to you now on YouTube, keeping you accountable, right? Otherwise, you probably wouldn't do the podcast. If they didn't tune in every Tuesday afternoon, you're not accountable, right? Same as work. You've got all these patients relying on you. You've got all these kind of bosses keep you accountable at work. You've got your wife who keeps you accountable at home. You've got your kids that keep you accountable for you know, being a good dad or whatever. So who's keeping you accountable for your health and fitness, right? And a lot of time it's no one. So if you think of it this way, if you didn't have a boss, who's to say that, you know, there'd be the odd time when you come in late for work, or I'm going to work from home today, you know, oh, I'm going to push this to Friday, because you don't have that accountability. When you've got a boss, you've got deadlines, well, that's when, you know, you have to do this because you lose your job, right? Or something like that. Accountability. No one's there to tell you, go and hit your workout, you know, we all know, yeah, I want to live longer, I want to be healthier. We all know that stuff, but that's not enough. It's not a driving factor enough to stay committed. Whereas when you're in an environment with other hardworking men, because, you know, we create a community of people. So if you're not hitting your workout, Charles, guess what? The next person is, and you can see that. So you're the one that misses out, you know, and it's like every week you report to me. So what have you done? What have you not done? If you're not hitting your boxes, well, then I'm going to ask you why, you know, and I'm going to keep you accountable. And I think it goes a long, long way. Like, I have coaches myself. And I think a lot of people, I have fitness coaches, I have business coaches, I have other coaches. People are like, why do you need a coach? Same reason you need a coach, right? Accountability,
Right.
you know, someone
Absolutely.
to keep you on track. And I think it goes, I think realistically, I think people who don't have accountability fail. People who do succeed. I think it's as black and white as that, to be honest.
Perfect. I mean, well said, Thomas. Because okay, let's just nail it down onto the elephant in the room: belly fat. Now, if I were to come and stand in front of you, you would probably switch the channel and get onto another channel or news. Now, talk to me. Talk to those who are listening, because it is a problem. I mean, I've got a fat loss machine here that freezes fat. It's called lipolysis, and the point is that what's your approach to belly fat? How does one lose belly fat? I mean, you torch it. I know you have a torch in your, you know, in your armamentarium and in your toolkit. But where do you start when it comes to fat loss initiation? That's your first phase.
Yeah. So think of it this way, and this is something I very much implement with my clients. It's like we go back to the sustainability part, right? Where a lot of people, I think, day one, I'm going to hit a 2-hour workout. I'm going to completely remove a food group, whether that be carbs or fats or something. I'm then gonna make sure I hit a half an hour cardio session at the end, and I'm gonna completely stop drinking and stop smoking at the same time, for example, right? that sounds amazing, because you're like, you automatically, you're probably thinking, oh, what a great plan that is. What a great plan. Like, that's going to definitely equal results, right?
Right.
Well, the reality is, like, how long are you going to be able to sustain that, right? How long are you really going to be able to keep that going? So instead, and I think a lot of people have this thing, like, Monday starts, I'm going to do this, and that. In actual fact, switch that and think, Monday starts, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to start with one thing. And then next week, I might increase that one thing a little bit. And then the week after that, I might bring in another thing. And it's all about starting slow
All right.
and building up from there. Because, like, people think, health and fitness is no different to anything else in your life. When you start a new job, you don't start as an executive. You don't start as the CEO, right? You start as like a trainee, entry level.
Right.
And you're not given 101 things to do from day one. You start maybe making the coffee, for example. Like, let's say you're 15, 16, you make the coffee, right? But then as the years go by, you stack more and more and more on top, right? Then you might start doing other things, and, it's a bit of office work, and then you might do a little bit of overtime. And before you know it, 5-10 years down the line, you are a qualified professional, right? And you want to think of it like with your health and fitness, right? You don't start from day one doing what like an Olympic athlete does, or like a professional bodybuilder does. It just doesn't work like that. You start slow. What can you do that's easy to do, that's going to get you some quick results and allow you to build momentum, right? Once you build that momentum, then can you add something else? Then can you look at this? Then can you do this workout? Now it might be time to add cardio. And I think the first thing is finding that start slow point, just letting the wheels go, just letting the
Right.
letting the stone turn for a bit, and build upon that. There's no rush. You have the rest of your life to dedicate to living a healthier lifestyle, right? That's why they call it lifestyle, right? Because it's for life. So, and I think that's a big thing people have. Like, I'm going to do this 8-week thing. I'm going to do this 12-week thing.
Yeah, we hear it all the time.
Why 8 weeks? Why 12 weeks? Why 16 weeks? Like, why not the rest of your life? That's not to say you have to live inside the gym. That's not to say you have to go to or hit a workout every single day. Can you hit 3 workouts for the rest of your life? Can you go for a daily walk? Can you get 7 hours of sleep every night for the rest of your life, or there and thereabouts? And when it comes to specifically losing belly fat, the secret is consistency.
Right.
Because you can't specifically, for anyone listening out there is no exercise, there is no food, there is no formula that will specifically target belly fat. Okay, your body will lose fat where it wants to, when it wants to.
Okay.
So some people, the last place I lose belly fat from is my belly, right? But that's not to say that I can't do it. It's just that you have to find something that you can start slow with, build up from there, be sustainable, and think of it for the rest of the life. And if you want some kind of like key deliverables of like, okay, let's say you've got 30 pounds to lose. Let's say the last 5 pounds of that is going to be your belly fat. Okay, realistically, you're going to lose fat from your knuckles, from your ankles, from your toes, everywhere, right?
Sure.
Your body, your body is a delicate thing. It's so complex, right? From a physiological standpoint, it's not like, oh, if I do this, then I'm going to lose this bit of belly fat. But the first thing you want to dial in is your nutrition, right? So you must create a calorie deficit. Okay, think of it like the pillars, and that would be like your base, almost like a triangle, right? And that's our core pillar at the very bottom. Okay, then just above that, I would recommend weight training. Okay, not cardio, weight training, because we talk about you want to get results, you want to sustain results. The best way to do that is to build muscle, okay, because this will actually allow you to sustain that weight and keep it off forever, okay, or a much longer time. So then you've got your calorie deficit. Then just above that, you've got your weight training, okay, resistance training in the gym, lifting dumbbells. And then to accompany that, you want a high protein diet, which will essentially allow your time in the gym to be utilized as much as possible. Okay, protein's great. Protein is your number one macronutrient for fat loss. Okay, you really want to make sure you're prioritizing your protein. And then just above, so you've got your calorie deficit, you're hitting the gym, you're eating a nice high protein diet. A massive overlooked component that people forget about is sleep, right?
Right.
So you burn fat and you build muscle when you sleep. You don't do it at the gym, right? So yes, you're in the gym, you're bicep curling, you're bench pressing, you're doing the damage, right? Your fibers are tearing, you're doing the damage. But when the magic happens is when you rest and recover and they bond back stronger. Okay. So without sleep, you're not allowing that process to take place.
Right.
That's really where that magic happens. And people forget that. And that was a big mistake I made many years ago. I would neglect sleep. Then just above sleep, you have what's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is N.E.A.T. In other words, it's how many calories you can burn that is non-related to exercise. Okay. And again, another massive component that is often missed. I think as you become more of a busy professional, you live a more sedentary lifestyle naturally. You go from the coffee boy running around making coffees from everyone to someone who sits at a desk and has paperwork to do, right? It's just natural. So what can you do to become more active in your day? And this is something I massively emphasize to my clients. Go out and walk more, right? Become less efficient with your day. And you're probably thinking, what does that even mean? A good example is anything you can do to kind of make your day less efficient. So can you walk to the shop instead of drive, right? Driving is a much more efficient way to get there. Walking is not, but walking is going to benefit you much more. Can you park further away from your destination? So you have to actually physically walk further to get to where you want to be. Can you take the stairs over the elevator, the lift? These are all little things that make your day a little bit less efficient, but benefit you massively in the long run. And then just above that, you can have the cardio. And that's just, when things get a little bit slow, you might want to introduce some cardio. A lot of people think, I want to lose fat, I'm going to hit the treadmill, I'm going to go for a bike run, I'm going to do this. Cardio is not always cardio doesn't equal fat loss. Cardio burns calories, but if you're not in a calorie deficit anyway, well, you're just improving your cardiovascular health. You're not necessarily burning more fat. And those are kind of like the 6 key pillars that are implemented in my program, in my opinion, are the most effective for losing fat. And then to specifically lose belly fat just comes down to consistent with those pillars. Just do those pillars for long enough, right? And eventually the areas of belly fat will disappear. But it's not like, oh, eat this food, do this diet, do this exercise, you'll specifically lose belly fat. It's a combination of doing the right things at the right time, and then just being consistent long enough for those areas of fat to disappear.
Perfect. I mean, this is a school of fitness, man. And, but when you talk about burning fat, I mean, for me, when I do lipolysis and all that, we talk about apoptosis. So and that's pretty straight away because you freeze the fat for about an hour to about -4 degrees. And then the fat cells then don't survive and they go through what's called apoptosis. So when you go through a program like this and you're talking about fat loss, where does the fat go?
It goes into the atmosphere essentially, because you can't. I mean, the way you describe may be the only way to actually destroy a fat cell, but you can't lose a fat cell. A fat cell only shrinks in size.
Right. Yep.
It gets bigger and it shrinks.
Absolutely.
So, well, what you do is when you create this calorie deficit, which essentially means, for anyone who's unsure what a calorie deficit is, it's like
explain that.
It's essentially a negative energy balance, right?
Okay.
So you think of it, food is fuel. And I always use the analogy of, like, let's say your body is a Lamborghini, right? Now, are you going to want to give that Lamborghini some, crappy red diesel fuel that's been stolen from some farm? Or are you going to want to give it the most high premium unleaded fuel, right? Now, if you've got a Lamborghini, you're obviously going to want to give it the best fuel there is. So think of your nutrition like your fuel, right? And if you're constantly giving it junk food and candy and sweets, not to say that you can never eat these things, but if you're constantly giving it that, then you're giving it a poor quality of fuel. It's not going to go very far. It's not going to run very smoothly, right? Whereas if you're giving yourself the right type of calories, high quality ingredients, well, you're going to be able to operate at a very high performance level. Okay. Now, fuel is your energy in, and what you do is your energy out. So I'm standing right now, I'm moving my hands, I'm speaking. That all uses energy. I'm using more energy than someone who's sitting. I'm probably using more energy than you right now. Okay, because I'm standing up. Everything you fidgeting, everything you do uses energy. Okay, that's what we do. We give off energy. So a calorie deficit is a negative energy balance. So essentially, the fuel I'm expending, like my energy through walking, talking, running, speaking, okay, has to be higher than the energy that I'm consuming. So the food that I'm eating. Now, what this does, it creates a deficit of energy, right?
Right.
And in other words, you don't have enough energy to sustain the current level you're at, because you're giving off energy to the atmosphere. You're only taking in a certain amount. So it creates this gap, right? Creates this negative energy balance. Now, this gap is where you lose fat, okay? The reason why I put weight training on the second pillar of my 6 pillars is because your body will also want to look to lose lean muscle mass, right? You're in this negative energy balance.
Right.
First thing it wants to do is, muscle is quite hard to sustain. Let's get rid of some muscle mass, right? We use a lot of energy to sustain this muscle. It's not ideal. We're in a negative energy balance. And essentially, Charles, what that means is it's a calculated way of dying, right? And now a lot of people are going to go like, oh, that sounds horrible. I don't want to do that, right? But if you think about it, if you were in a negative energy balance forever, well, you wouldn't have any energy left. You would die, right? So what we do is we do it very calculated, and essentially we want to tell our body, and this is why we hit the gym, we train weights. Hey man, I'm using this muscle mass, right? You can't take this muscle mass. I need this. We're working with this. I'm applying resistance, and it forces the muscle to grow, right? Just like when you're at school, you learn addition, then you might learn subtraction, and then you'll learn division. But if you never progressed, you'd always stay at addition. And that's like your muscles. You want to constantly be giving it like more challenging things. Go up in weight, hit the gym, hit heavier sessions, do more sets, etc. So essentially you're telling the body, we need this muscle mass. Like, you cannot touch this muscle mass. So then it says, all right, okay, Charles he's saying no, he's using his muscle mass, so we can't use that for energy. Now the only other option we have is fat, right? So then it's going to tap into stored fat, adipose tissue, stored fat, to use as that replacement energy, because we're in a deficit of energy. Right. And that over time, you consistently do that long enough, you start to lose fat, okay? Right. And then we get back to the belly fat thing. After a while, you start losing fat from your face, from your hands, from your arms. Only place left for it to lose is the belly. So it's going to slowly release the adipose tissue, right? Burn off as energy, and then you start to, lose fat. Does that make sense?
I tell you, this is perfect illustration. It's like hitting a petrol pump and asking whether you want yellow or green. And is your car taking the yellow one, which is lead or unleaded? And you can really, it's like hoodwinking your whole body.
Yeah.
To kind of like go into another system to draw its energy and safeguard, so you don't go through sarcopenia when you reach an age like mine. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because I think perfect. I mean, wonderful illustration. Now, because of time, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
I think those things, they can be helpful. I think people are playing too much emphasis again on finding the perfect solution, like labeling the thing. And like I said at the very start, like it's not the diet that's going to get you results. It's not the workout program that's going to get you results. Those stuff obviously play a big role, right? But again, it comes down to your mindset. That's where your results come from, right? The way you set up your mindset. So there's 101 things you can do. You can do keto diet, you can do paleo, intermittent fasting, fasting, 1 meal a day. I think those are all unnecessary things, right?
Okay.
Those are all unnecessary things. If you're just doing the right things, we talk about those 6 key pillars. You're hitting those 6 key pillars and doing them right. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. Do something that you can enjoy, right? So you can create a calorie deficit without having to do intermittent fasting. You know, you can create a calorie deficit by still having some, candy on the weekends, by maybe still having a slice of pizza. You can still create that, right? But you want to be doing the right things 90% of the time. Like there's this thing called the 80-20 rule. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, where
Yeah.
20% of what you do yields 80% of your results. Now, I like to use the 90-10 rule in terms of your nutrition, where it's do 90% of the things right, and then you still got the other 10% to do the things you love. Eat your pizza, your ice cream, whatever it is. You don't have to be perfect. What can you do that's sustainable? What can you do something that's you could do for the rest of your life? Now, if cutting carbs, if intermittent fasting isn't one of those things, okay, how, like, are you really going to be able to go the rest of your life eating in between the windows
Right.
of 12 and 4? Are you going to be able to do that for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, then my opinion would be to do something that you can.
Much more. Right.
Okay?
Right.
Much more sustainable. Fasting can be good in terms of if you need to restrict your calories. Sometimes you can push that first meal back a little bit, right? Because, for example, if I eat the first meal I eat, that kind of sets me off and my hunger kicks in, and then I'll be hungry for the rest of the day. So if I push that first meal back, say instead of eating at 9 o'clock, I'll eat at 12 o'clock. I'm not as hungry in the morning, so I can do that. And then it just kind of shortens my window of time to get the calories in. But sticking to something like, religiously, like, oh, I'm doing intermittent fasting and I'm only eating between X and, X and Y,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily necessary. You don't need to do it.
Well, point. I mean, perfectly said. Now, what's talking about food? What's your daily kind of layout on the table for you? Breakfast, lunch, dinner. What do you take, Thomas? I want to live with you, man.
You, so
What's it
right,
look
so
like?
right now, yeah. So again, we talk about, it's very important to run your own race, and I say this to my clients because it's like, I made many mistakes along the way, many mistakes, and I didn't go from 0 to 100 in a day. And when I did, I failed, right? So now over time, I built this resilience. I built these disciplines, these habits that allow me to get to where I am. My goal for next year is to compete on stage in a bodybuilding competition, right? Like
Wow,
do
great.
the whole thing. So I'm working with a coach myself. I have a coach, right? Coaches have coaches, and my diet is quite regimented at the minute, right? So I'm eating 6 times per day, big meals, a lot of chicken, a lot of rice, foods that are very sensible and good for your digestion. Now, what I'm doing isn't necessarily what someone else should do, because you would be comparing your chapter 1 to, let's say, my chapter 20,
Right.
right? And then that would be the same if I was to, go and do what the Olympia guys are doing. I'm not at that chapter yet, right? So in terms of my days, it's quite disciplined. Meal 1, I'll have meal 1 at, let's say, breakfast time. I'll then go have meal 2, then hit my training session. Normally after I've had some carbs, come back, have a post workout, and then I'll essentially space my meals out 3, 4, 5, and 6 throughout the rest of the day. But like I said, I've over time, from many mistakes and building and sharpening my axe, I've got to the point where I can be very, very regimented with what I'm eating. I'm eating pretty much the same 6 meals every day, right? Now, someone else who's starting their fitness journey is nowhere near that. Anyone who tries that is probably not going to be able to do it. So that's why I say, that's not to say in 5 years time you'll get to the point where you're ready to compete on stage. Very, very possible. Very, very possible. Anyone can do it. It's just that you need to build up to that point and get there. So yeah, the way my diet and the way I train would be very different to, let's say, the
Yeah.
way you would do things, Charles.
Of course, of
Um,
course, of course. I
but yeah.
mean, that goes without saying. But you know something, Thomas, as we kind of like wind up, the YouTube can be a total disaster to those who are looking in for ways and means of it's full of all sorts of stuff. And you got people who come up and I'm having a chat with them and they will tell me, just go and eat 3-4 eggs a day, good enough. Or you go and see somebody else and they'll say, just stay on steaks for non-stop. It's just flooded with stuff that can actually kill you and be more, detrimental than good. And I think what you're saying is really sound, evidence-based kind of, a fitness regime. But I tell you something, and I won't let you go without you giving me an answer. And you can hit me on the bat, whichever way, front or behind. But I went into a spill of one day, what I call was emotional mind buying. I was down, I was depressed, I was lonely, I was in that pit, a bottomless pit. And I just went to the supermarket and bought a whole array of stuff and came back and finished it in 1 hour. And I can tell you something, emotions can take a better hold of you. You can have your emotions for lunch, dinner, and even a night's snack. How do you handle that? What do you tell someone like that? Go see a psychiatrist. I mean, it
Yeah,
does happen, and I
yeah,
know a lot of people are going through emotional struggles, and they just binge and put on. And what do you do? I mean, you're a coach. Help me, coach. What did I do
yeah.
that night?
And you make a very good point, because as humans, we make decisions on emotion, right? We make an emotional decision. We try and justify by logic, but like it doesn't matter. We're creatures of emotion. You can't change that, right? I think you talk about go see a psychiatrist as like a jokey thing, but it I think it comes down to kind of rewiring. So something I do. I read a lot of books, like self-development books, self-help books, personal development books, and they help me to kind of rewire my thinking pattern. And
Right.
really, I think it comes down to that. It's like, what do you value? And I think we look at food. I think society look at food in the wrong way. I talked about it earlier being fuel, and you can say that, that's a bit like, it's a bit boring. Like, I get enjoyment from food, and we all do. We all love food, but I think it changed. Do you get value from eating till you feel sick? Do you find happiness, fulfillment in, eating that cake and ice cream? And I think if you can change the way a different relationship with food is what I'm trying to get at, right?
Right.
If you can kind of change your way of fulfillment from finding happiness by eating that, concoction of delicious food, which we all love. Like, don't get me wrong, like I can sit there and do the same thing. But I think I've changed my perception of what I value, in terms of I'm much happier when I'm hitting my goals and ticking my boxes, because this was a post I written a while ago, where it's like there will be times where I'll go away and just have a week off of everything, not training, just eating what I want, doing what I want, staying up late. And in the moment, it's fun. In the moment, it is fun. But then after, that's only short-lived fun, right?
Right.
That's very short-lived kind of fulfillment. And I've changed my kind of like perception of fun, is to when I'm out there, I'm ticking my boxes, I'm building my business, I'm helping my clients, I'm waking up early, I'm getting my stuff done, I'm hitting my workouts, because that's something where I'll look back at the end of the night and I'll be like, I'm super satisfied with what I've done, right? Whereas if you're only satisfied in that moment, that goes. And when you look back at that, you think, oh, I can't believe I did that. Shouldn't have done that. Now I feel worse. I feel more guilty that I just
Yes.
eat X amount. So it's like changing that perception of, where do you get fulfillment from? What do you truly, feel fulfilled once you're doing those things? And over time, once you're working towards your goals and you're getting your things done and you're ticking your boxes, you're meeting, your deadlines and doing these things, you look back on that and think it brings you more joy. And people say, like, I don't have the motivation to work out, I don't have the motivation to do this. It's like, That's because you're relying on motivation.
Right.
Motivation will only get you so far. In my opinion, motivation is fake, because what is motivation? So if you're feeling unmotivated, what you need to do is take more action, because once you take action, you see a tangible result. And once you see a tangible result, guess what? You're going to want more of that. It becomes addictive. You become obsessed with it. And that leads to your motivation. So in answer to your question, I think it just comes down to changing your perception of what fulfills you, and then learning to have a better relationship around food, because we're emotional, we make decisions. But I think the more you can invest into yourself, books, coaches, masterminds, anything in that nature that will help you rewire your paradigm, your set of beliefs, and what you value, I think in the long run, that's going to set you up, and those instances are going to become less and less. Not to say that you will never do that again. I'm sure you will. But you're going to win more days than you lose, if that makes sense.
Oh man, fantastic. I mean, look, you know what's happening? We are looking at the Greek god. And I like your phase 5, which says Greek god forever. And have you reached that? Do you think that you're there already?
Personally, I would say, in terms of how I've managed to rewire my mindset, then I can switch it on and off. I believe that it's a continuous journey of self-improvement.
Right.
So I believe, in my mind, you said it when we were talking about becoming the best version of yourself.
Mm.
That doesn't ever end. I think you get very close to that point, but if you're ambitious, your goalposts are always moving, right? And I tell my clients the thing: once you lose your first 10, you want to lose your next 20, and then once you lose the 20, you want to lose 30. So in terms of like where I am right now, I'm very, very happy in terms of where I am, like physically and mentally. Am I at Greek God forever? I think that's something that I'll continuously work on.
Oh, fantastic! I tell you. And the dad bod, what's that?
The dad bod. So that kind of comes from, again, I talk about why did I want a transformation. I was kind of going dad bod, and dad bod is essentially, I guess it's become more of an internet thing. It's more of a physique. It's more of a physique where you got a bit of belly fat, you're a bit chunky around the sides. You're not like morbidly obese, but maybe how you're describing how you were feeling earlier. You've got a bit of belly fat, you got a bit to lose. You're not quite in the best shape of your life, or like you used to be. You've kind of got the dad bod. So it's about taking those guys who've got a bit of weight to shift, know they can kind of be better in a sense, and then taking them from where they are to the best shape of their life. Now Greek God is, it's subjective, right? Like your perception of the best shape of your life will be different to mine. Right. But I think that's the cool thing, where we're all running our own race.
Right.
And it's focusing on staying in your lane, focusing on the progress you make, and then doing everything we can to get you to where you want to be. And once you get to where you want to be, goalposts will change, and then you'll have a different goal, which is great, but I think it's also important to admire what you've done and reflect and very much appreciate how far you've come. Not just chase the next thing, but use goals as like incentives to drive you forward. Also have some time to reflect on the work that you've done as well.
Fantastic. Well, I love you, man. Listen, how do people reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, which is @BelieveInLean. Same with TikTok, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just type my name, Thomas Whitehead. You'll see me, men's online fat loss coach, CEO of Believe in Lean. And that's probably the best ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, listen, you need to make a visit here to Malaysia, and we will have, a whole session of from Dad Bod to Green God, the man himself, Thomas Whitehead. Listen, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on HEARTtalk. It's been a fantastic hour with you. I've learned a lot myself, and certainly you put me in the right space to find that purpose and meaning to life, that there's always a chance and a challenge to see the better version of ourselves. And so with that, we want to say thank you again. Have a great day. And we'll burn that fat loss together. That's a beast that doesn't need to survive. And so we want to thank you and all the best to you, man. Love you.
Thanks, man. It's been a pleasure. You take care.
You too. Hi, everyone. This is Charles Lee here. Thank you for your company. Thank you for just joining us. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. And if you did, then please press that subscribe button right now and click that bell so that you will hear that sound that we are coming on live on YouTube. You can also get me on Facebook, HEARTtalk, Dr. Charles Lee. You can also get me on Instagram, HEARTtalk, Dr. Charles Lee. And on all these social medias because of you. And we can have that abundant life if we are together. So once again, thank you and subscribe, please, right now.